This is Ross von Hausen at Saints and Stuff, and today we're talking about Ignatius of Antioch. Ignatius of Antioch was a late 1st century, early 2nd century Christian bishop and martyr. While little is known about his life, tradition is generally taught that Ignatius was a Gentile himself, a disciple of the Apostle John, and was suggested to his post by the Apostle Peter. Accordingly, he is considered one of the Apostolic Fathers, those Christians that conveyed the teachings of the apostles themselves to the rest of the early church. While being taken to Rome to face the wild beasts, a scene often depicted in iconography, Ignatius was followed by a small entourage, including an amanuensis, messengers, and was able to use them to send letters to nearby churches, including one to Polycarp. Antioch, where Ignatius served, was situated in what is now southern Turkey, and was at the time the crossroads between Roman and Jewish culture. Ignatius lived during a time of significant cultural shifts. In the wake of the destruction of the temple in 70 CE, Christians, having believed their Messiah to have already come in Christ, found themselves in stark disagreement with those within Judaism which held to a nationalistic conception of the Messiah, who would free them through militaristic prowess. Many Jews resented Christians for their lack of support, and many Christians favored distancing themselves from Judaism, which Rome associated with sedition. While Christianity had initially started off as a Jewish sect, increasingly the church was gaining more Gentile converts. Many of these first converts were known as God-fearers, Gentiles who adhered to elements of Judaism, but without skin in the game, since strictly speaking full conversion would require circumcision. Later Gentile converts were less familiar with Judaism than these earlier God-fearers. This demographic shift led to concerns over Gentile Christians' adherence to the faith of Israel. Some felt that the correct response was stricter observance of Jewish practices, while others sought to integrate various Platonic, Gnostic, and other cultural beliefs into Christianity. These divisions eventually led many to cease sharing the sacred meal together. Another issue at play for the early church was that of authority. While the apostles were still alive, it was fairly clear who could be appealed to in order to settle disputes. But in their absence, there was less certainty. Gnostics claimed to have secret knowledge, while some of the Judaizers referred to Torah or other sacred writings. Ignatius was critical of these schisms and encouraged the churches to unify around their bishops. Ignatius mocked the Judaizing God-fearers' hypocritical veneration of Jewish traditions, saying, "For it is better to hear Christianity from a man who is circumcised, than Judaism from a man who is uncircumcised." He also rejected their dependence upon their sacred writings. Rather, Ignatius looked to Jesus Christ, his cross and death and resurrection and faith through him as like sacred writings, and exhorted everyone to love union, flee division, be imitators of Jesus Christ as he himself is of his Father. Ignatius was also critical of the lack of love he saw from Gnostic and Docetic Christians, saying, "For love they have no concern, none for the widow, none for the orphan, none for the one distressed, none for the one imprisoned or released, none for one hungry or thirsty." Interestingly, he goes on to discuss their denial of the embodied aspect of the Eucharist, as if to connect their rejection of the embodied God to their neglect of other embodied beings. In response to these growing divisions, Ignatius called for unity in following the teachings of Christ and emphasized the importance of the bishop as an exemplar and source of genuine Christianity. In Ignatius's rejection of these growing schisms, he goes so far as to say, it is not permissible apart from the bishop either to baptize or to celebrate the love feast. This high view of the office of bishops has made Ignatius a contentious figure in Catholic-Protestant dialogue. However, it should be noted that the source of the bishop's divine authority in Ignatius is unclear, whether it proceeds from his office or the teaching itself. Regardless, Ignatius was adamant that the Christian life was to follow in the footsteps of Christ, embodying love to the point of death, something Ignatius himself was preparing to do. As he wrote in his epistle to the Romans, "Allow me to be an imitator of the suffering of my God."